Gavin de Becker's book, The Gift of Fear, is full of information on red flags and how to avoid them, how to get yourself out of dangerous situations. The movie Speak No Evil perfectly exemplifies what he's talking about. This is part 2, and I had to split this into 2 because it just got too long, so let's get on with it. Hi everyone, I'm Rosie Blythe. I'm the author of the Princess Guide to Life book series, and on this channel we talk about everything from royals to books to spirituality. And today we're continuing with part 2 of a video that I made about The Gift of Fear, the book by Gavin de Becker, and the film Speak No Evil, or films, because there's 2 versions, and how these films really play into The Gift of Fear and what Gavin de Becker was talking about in this book full of the red flags of human behaviour. So that night when the kids are in bed, they hear Ant crying. And Louise says, I'm just going to go and check on my daughter. And James stops her, and it's with a smile, it's not forceful. And he says, you know, just give it a minute, he'll be fine. And he is.
I love it out here. It's like a digital detox. Get away from London for a while.
Yeah.
Is he all right?
Oh, no, he's fine.
Yeah.
He'll crash in a minute. He does this sometimes, it's just part of his condition.
He's not in pain.
No.
No.
Okay.
No pain.
You know, I'm gonna just check on Agnes.
Yeah.
No. He's calmed.
Wow.
And I think it's really interesting how often this comes up, where parents, especially like parents of a new baby, everyone will tell them like, oh, leave them, they'll be fine. Don't get up, don't go to them, don't hold them all the time. It's good for you. And I think that sort of separating parents from their instinct to go and check on their baby, to me, that's a red flag. And I know a lot of people would think that's completely normal and fine and you've got to separate at some point. But I don't like to see it when someone says like, oh, I'm just going to do this with my baby, and someone else stops them, says, no, they'll be fine. Let their grandma do it or whatever. I don't like that. To me, that's controlling. You know, let people comfort their own children if they want to. So the next day seems idyllic, although obviously we're all on kind of tenterhooks waiting to see what's going to go wrong. And we see that when Ant doesn't comply with what his father wants him to do, it sort of unleashes this rage.
Look at this. Ant, do you think you can move, honey, so that Agnes can have a swing? Oh, hello. Do you mind asking Ant if he'll move, just so that Agnes wants to have a go?
Come on, pal.
Just for a second.
Give you a piggyback, yeah? Come on. Go. I'd have felt the back of my dad's hand by now.
Patty, it's okay. He doesn't have to.
It's all right. He wants to, don't you, mate? Go on. Give Agnes a push.
There's another scene where the kids are putting on like a little show and Paddy gets really angry. And I think we've all probably been in a situation where someone's yelling at their kid and other people are embarrassed and don't really know what to do, and you sort of get a little bit of an insight into what their private life is like, and you're like, oh, this isn't great, is it?
Ant, what are you doing? Come on, man, concentrate, all right?
Hey, Patty, they're doing great.
Yeah, but he's got no rhythm at all, and he's spoiling the routine.
Patty, they're just kids.
Listen, my dad always used to say you have to work really hard at life, otherwise you will amount to nothing. Ant, come on, mate, feel the music. This is the one, yeah? Oh my God, Ant, what is wrong with you? How hard can it be? Just feel the rhythm in your feet. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And they do sort of step up and say like, oh no, Paddy, that's really not on. But that's kind of the first time that they've really spoken out and really sort of rebelled against Paddy and Kira. We've all probably been in that kind of situation where someone's really yelling at someone else who can't answer back. and it's just very awkward, and no one likes to be in that situation. We have quite an interesting thing where Louise is just increasingly uncomfortable. I think she's always been less comfortable with this family, but she's kind of gone along with it to please her husband. But when she starts really expressing, like, I just don't want to be here anymore, I don't really like them, her husband kind of goes, oh, you know, what's the problem? Oh, they're so horrible, aren't they, inviting us to dinner?
Louise, do you want to take a nap?
Yeah, in their dirty bed.
Okay, let's everybody just...
I'm sorry. I am trying. I really, really am. I don't find them that pleasant to be around.
Okay.
Maybe we could use my neck as an excuse.
To leave?
Hey.
Hi.
Am I interrupting?
No.
Well, Paddy and I would like to invite you for dinner tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, there's this guy Mike. He's a bit of a local legend. I mean, rumour is he's a poacher, but he's an amazing cook. And he has this little place by the sea, private room, like a chef's table type thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's super authentic, everything fresh, local.
Great.
Great. We'd love to.
Great.
She seems really unpleasant. Okay. Hey, let's try and reboot. All right? Remember what Nadine said? Let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good.
And I think this is really important, because if you do feel uncomfortable around someone, there are going to be people around who don't have the same feelings. Maybe they are less intuitive. Maybe you're wrong and they're right. But if you're not comfortable, then you're not comfortable. What are you going to do about it? So you can't just convince yourself that something feels right to you if it doesn't. Even if someone else is going, oh, this is fun, this is lovely. What could be so awful about this situation? If you feel like you don't want to be there, then it's probably a pretty good sign that you shouldn't be there. I think one scene that I did think worked really well in the original was when they have this big confrontation and Louise kind of has to say, like, why she feels uncomfortable. And she says, like, the bed's uncomfortable and she's vegetarian, but they keep giving her meat. And in the original, they had this scene where they're driving home and they play music really loud. And she's like, oh, can you turn it down, please? So she brings all this up. And the script does a really good job of just kind of pouring cold water on her and being like, why didn't you say anything? You know, if you're uncomfortable, just say so. You know, if you don't want to eat meat, just don't eat it.
All your respect. First of all, I'm a vegetarian. But all you've been doing since we got here was serving meat.
But we have all sorts of food. You can have a hagelslag sandwich right now. I can make it for you.
No, thank you. And last night at that restaurant or roadhouse or whatever that place was, it was very uncomfortable to drive. And the music was so loud. And you were drinking and driving. And the way you were touching each other in front of us, that just made me so uncomfortable. I'm really sorry. But it's just, so many things have felt so wrong. I'm really sorry, but it's just how it is.
First of all, Louise, I am terribly sorry that we forgot that you are a vegetarian. And if there are things you don't eat, you just could have told us. Right? And our house is not huge, so we cannot offer you a big luxury room and a king-size bed. Björn, I'm sorry. And I am truly sorry that Agnes doesn't feel comfortable staying in Abel's room, but we thought it was only natural. I mean, if you only knew how much Abel was looking forward to sharing his toys in his room with Agnes. And the roadhouse, as you call it, the hugging and the dancing. Yeah, but we were just having a fun evening, guys. Come on.
And I think this is actually really interesting, because when someone is manipulating you or gaslighting you, if you actually have the strength to confront them and say, look, I'm not happy about the situation because of this and this and this, they are going to talk you around and make it sound like you're just being crazy and unreasonable, or like, oh, I didn't know that I was offending you by doing that, like you could have just said. And they knew damn well they were offending you. Of course they did. They're not stupid. But people do just work around all of this stuff.
Also, I think these attempts to describe what's wrong and it then getting dismissed is really key, because, yeah, if you make a list of what is making you feel uneasy about a situation, it may not sound like very much when you put it into words. But that doesn't take away the feeling that you have in the pit of your stomach when you know a person or a situation is going to create a disaster for you. Also, another quick note, did you clock that little bit of emotional blackmail about the kids getting along together? This is also something that is used in both films, even though the boy clearly isn't that keen to bond with Agnes. But you'll notice this in real life. People will use not disappointing the kids or, you know, their grandma or their boss or whoever as a reason for you to go along with their plans.
I think one scene that most people kind of go, oh, this is the bit where I would really draw a line in the sand. They're about to go out for dinner. So
Paddy and Kira
have invited them out for dinner as their guests. So it's very clear that they are paying, I would say. But when they get ready to go, it's like, oh, didn't we tell you that the kids aren't invited? Which is mean when, like, you've said to the kids, like, oh, we're going out for dinner. And they're like, oh, no, you're not coming. So they invite this man around and he's foreign. I mean, I think just being a man is enough, but I guess being a different nationality as well, maybe, you know, the communication isn't so good. I think that would be even more of a kind of cultural thing where people would go, I'm not comfortable with this at all.
Isn't Ed coming?
Hey, Mooch! Here he is.
So, Wajid doesn't speak the best English, but he's a great babysitter.
Hello.
The kids not coming with us?
Oh, no, tonight's about the kids, didn't I tell you that?
Mooj had to flee the war in Syria. His hometown, Homs, just obliterated.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Poor bugger, he's stuck in the asylum system, can't officially work.
Don't worry, he's thoroughly trustworthy. Back home, he was a teacher. He's great with kids. The whole neighbourhood feels the same. And not just because he's cheap.
Yeah, and the best part is if there's any monkey business, we'll get him deported. Brother.
I think there is also a sly little dig at 21st century self-proclaimed liberals. I'm kind of assuming that Louise and Ben probably consider themselves left-wing and politically correct. And the fact that now they know this guy is a Syrian refugee, they cannot be seen to criticise or reject him in any way, even though they clearly don't want him looking after their kid. This movie is definitely satire as well as a great thriller.
Some strange man comes to babysit a kid. Like, no, I think most people would be not okay with that. And you can tell, of course, Louise is uncomfortable, and I think Ben is too, Louise more so, but they still go to dinner. So they go out to dinner, and if you've watched this movie, you'll know it's pretty excruciating, but entertaining as well. And then when it comes to pay, Ben says, oh, let us pitch in. And Paddy's like, yeah, great, thanks. And just walks out. So they're left with the whole bill.
That is punchy. Worth every penny, mind.
Paddy.
Oh, that's very kind of you, man. We'll get the car, okay?
So they definitely are marked as pushovers now. At this point, it's like they've really proven themselves to be so easygoing that you can push them around any time you want. And in the original, this scene is just slightly less smooth. They kind of make a like, oh, we're paying, are we? Sort of thing.
Someone had a really good time tonight. You want us to tip in? Oh, thanks, man. So the dinner is on us? Oh, that's so kind. Thanks, man. Thanks. Dave, to you. You.
Whereas James McAvoy, you can see somebody like this being very charismatic and just kind of sweeping people along with the strength of his character, and people would just kind of go along with it, I think. So Paddy takes Ben out and they do this like primal screaming. And to me, this is kind of a red flag when someone really wants you to drop your inhibitions around them. It's like they want to have access to that part of you that you don't share with everyone else. And again, this could be like perfectly normal bonding between good friends. But I think sometimes people just want you to make yourself vulnerable so that they can get in.
I think it's also worth noting that this movie has a whole other layer about male-female dynamics. There's a background issue with Ben and Louise that actually makes them vulnerable because it's possible for Paddy especially to drive a wedge between them. I haven't delved into that in this video because it's not especially relevant to The Gift of Fear, plus I could easily end up chatting on for longer than the original film, but I may do a video on that in future, so let me know if that's something you'd like to see.
So the final thing really before everything kicks off is that that night Louise goes to check on Agnes and she's not in her bedroom, she's in the room with Paddy.
And Kira.
She's in their bed and she's just like, nope. She nopes right out of there and grabs her child and packs up, and that's all I can say without spoiling the movie. I feel like this film does have some red herrings where you're expecting something to go horribly wrong and then it doesn't. But there was one scene that really made me think like, oh Louise, what are you doing? Because she mentions having like a pain in her neck or back. And of course he's like, oh, let me massage you.
You flaring up?
Yeah, it's just a...
May I?
Oh.
Go on, loosen your knees. Oh, wow. Yeah. Your levator scapulae is like a rope. So just... Yeah. I know what you need. Cold water therapy, clinically proven to reduce inflammation and, anyone? Boost the immune system.
Oh. And I think all women, and I'm sure lots of men too, have learnt, like you've been in a situation where you've said like, oh, I've got this or that pain. And then that creepy person in your office or in your friendship group or whatever is like, oh, let me do it for you. And you just learn to never mention certain things in front of them or to really guard your words around them because you know they're going to jump on it. So Agnes tries to tell her mum that Ant is not right. And it's been explained away that he has this like congenital problem with his tongue and that's why he can't speak. Which, if you watch the movie to the end, yeah, there's another reason for that. But Agnes tries to tell her mum, like, there's something wrong. And Louise is like, we must be kind.
I think he's going through a lot. And we need to be kind.
Oh, something's not right with him.
Agnes, sometimes it's okay to think things, but you can't actually say them.
Mom, it's not normal.
Agnes, love, do you want to come help me peel these?
And it's so sort of funny, like it's not actually funny, but I'm laughing because it's a subtle moment in the movie, but it's really what the movie is all about. Because if someone is behaving strangely, if someone is a weirdo, if someone is dangerous, comes across as dangerous to you, and someone else is like, oh, you can't say that about them. You know, particularly if it's like someone of a different social or racial demographic from you, and you criticise them and say, oh, they're a bit weird, then it does become a kind of like, oh, you can't say that. That's not politically correct, is it? And I think there is this sort of liberal tendency among many of us that we don't want to be seen as like being bigoted in some way. So we'll try not to see that problem that's right in front of us. So like, for instance, you could be walking through the park with your friends and you see some guy who's clearly off his face on drugs, possibly possessed by demons, I don't know. And he's like, being crazy. And you might say to your friends like, oh, should we go this way? Because I don't really want to walk past that guy. He seems off his face. if your friend's like, no, oh, don't be so mean. He's probably really impoverished. And, you know, if he is taking drugs, there's nothing wrong with that. He should be allowed to, like, why shouldn't he enjoy himself? Let's walk right past him. Let's go and sit on the bench next to him. And then your friend gets stabbed in the face because that guy is a weirdo. It's like, no one wins in that situation. And I think refusing to see the truth that is in front of you because it seems unkind or politically incorrect to point out that there's something really wrong. I think that's what this film is all about, really. Okay, so spoiler alert. If you haven't seen both movies and you want to without any spoilers, then you might want to pause this video, go and watch both films, come back in 5 hours or whatever, because that's a completely feasible thing that you do. So the difference in the two films, there are some scenes that are almost verbatim the same. I think early on in the movie they start out, they're very, very similar, but then the European version of the film, as is so often the case with European films rather than US UK remakes, it has a much darker ending. So in the original, they almost get away. And again, it sort of talks about the lack of communication between the married couple, because the man realises what's going on and he bundles his wife and child out, which, you know, kind of reasonable to say, you know, get them out without them panicking. But then you should probably tell them once they're in the car, because he leaves them alone in the car and then they get rescued by these villains.
Hey, Björn. Thanks for the call. I'm glad you agreed to meet us up on the road.
Thanks for helping us out. It's very nice of you.
Of course.
And something that people find incredibly frustrating about the original is that they just go catatonic and are unable to help themselves. So even when there are clearly situations where they could take control, they could fight back, they just don't. And, you know, you can sort of justify it saying, well, they're in shock, because there is this scene where their daughter's tongue gets cut out, which is gross. To be honest, I thought the remake, where the little boy does that motion, I thought that was just as disturbing as seeing it, because it's like, it's such a shocking kind of image, and I think sometimes something that lives in your imagination can be scarier than just seeing the special effects. But so they've seen this happen and that still doesn't galvanize them into action, and then at the end they just stand there and take it, and it's like there's not a gun pointed at them, they don't, you know, there's no real danger to them if they did fight back, but they just don't. But I guess what the movie maker was trying to say there was, let's take this to its logical conclusion. You know, if you let someone walk all over you, you will continue to do that until they just kill you. So the UK-US remake is much more satisfying. And I know sometimes people get really annoyed with like remake having a sort of more conventional happy ending where people do escape. They get annoyed with that, but I think in this case it's more realistic, to be honest, because I think you would fight back.
And go!
And this is something that I mentioned actually in my previous video, where I was talking about my experience of the gift of fear, where I found myself in a scary situation, where this guy was like coming up behind me and tried to grab me, and I got angry. And I chased him. And it reminded me actually of another story that I mentioned in my previous video, which I'll link below in case you want to watch it, where a girl on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, she had talked about the fact that when she had a guy attack her in her home, she started out being like a sort of Hollywood movie victim, you know, just like letting it happen to her. But then when he actually hurt her, he like cut her fingers or something, it was like the flip of a switch. And she got angry and she started chasing him and hitting him with a lamp. And she pointed out, like, I haven't really seen that in a movie. And I think that is interesting because maybe movie makers think it's unrealistic to show someone being really like cowed and frightened and then suddenly going, you know what, I'm not putting up with this crap anymore, I'm going to fight back. And it's almost like people will wait until things get really violent before they'll actually fight back. But I do think it's somewhat realistic, and I think that this idea that people would just remain in a catatonic victim state isn't actually realistic because, look, I'm a people pleaser. I can see myself in these characters, that I could see myself going along with things because it seems really rude not to. But I would draw a line at, like, you know, if someone's driving in a car and they, you know, start cutting someone's tongue, like, I think that would be when I would actually go, you know what, no, I'm going to fight back. You know, even if it was with my bare hands, like, I'm going to do something. So I think the remake is more realistic in that way. I think some people argue that the power of the ending was lost by changing it. I think that some people like that sort of the poetry almost of people just sticking with that, like, oh no, we're really like passive, so we're going to stay passive to the end. So I do have to say, I think the remake is far superior, but the original definitely has its moments. And I think the original is more about getting to that really bleak ending and the sort of culmination of all of these weak choices that they've made. And it's like, well, the payoff is they're going to just kill you because you've let them do it. And I think the remake is more about, we know that there is something wrong, and so every scene is just like strung really tight with tension because we don't know how it's all going to pan out. So it's just like, it's one of the few films I've had to stop while I was watching and be like, okay, I need a breath. Like, before it even got too scary, I was like, I know this is going to be like nerve jangling for me. So I think at its most extreme, this is about how intuition can save your life, but being too weak, sometimes being nice and just going along with what people make you do and agreeing, it's the difference between life and death. And I think that is what the gift of fear is all about. Like, if you feel fear, you need to just leave, and it doesn't matter if it seems rude or it makes you look paranoid or it makes you look like a weirdo. None of that matters. Like, people who care, like people who are genuine and aren't trying to manipulate you, will understand. And also I think it's about communication between partners, or it could be between parents and children, or it could be between friends. Like, if you say to somebody, I have a really bad feeling about the situation, I think we need to leave. Do they say, okay, I mean, I don't feel it, but I will trust your intuition and I'll agree with you? Or do they say, you're being crazy, you're being paranoid, like there's nothing wrong, let's just stay half an hour longer, yeah, and then we'll go, or whatever. And make you stay in a situation that's really uncomfortable for you. And it's like, it takes such strength of character to say, no, I'm going now because I do not feel safe here. But of course it's a fine line, and it's a balance, because you might be in a situation where one partner is always up for an adventure and they're always up for being spontaneous and like, yeah, let's go and stay with these people that we met on holiday. And someone else is like, oh no, I just want to stick to my usual routine. I don't want to do all this crazy stuff. And it's like, sometimes you do need that person to be like, no, come on, let's do something a bit exciting, because not every situation is going to end up with people trying to murder you, hopefully. So there is that, like, yeah, sometimes you should just try skydiving or interrailing or whatever it is that seems a bit adventurous, and, you know, not having such a sort of paranoid sense of like everyone's out to get you and everyone's dangerous and like danger's lurking behind every corner, because I do think most people are good at heart. And I think also the title Speak No Evil, how often do we see a situation where there's a family or a couple, because it is, you know, it's not even strongly implied, it's said in the film that
Kira
is his first victim, or one of his first victims, and he just chooses victims to be his partner. How often do we see a situation where we can see something isn't right, but we don't say anything because that would be really outlandish to kind of speak out and criticise like another family's dynamics. And to be honest, I think a lot of the time it wouldn't do any good anyway. But maybe if someone is just kind of aware, like maybe even if a child is in a toxic family situation, just having someone else kind of say like, yeah, we see you, that's not a great situation, there's nothing we can do because it's not necessarily like a situation for social services to get involved in, but we see you, I think that could be quite valuable. So those are my thoughts on Speak No Evil, and the way it really exemplifies what Gavin de Becker talks about in his book The Gift of Fear. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you'll join me for future videos because I talk about all kinds of stuff. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. I feel like this film has quite a lot of red herrings where you think like, oh, this is going to happen now, and it doesn't. Oh, what was that? The hazards of filming on a boat.